The guard saw her hands first. They were trembling. It was March 2026. And Sergeant David Clark had stood watch at Windsor Castle's Long Walk gates for 11 years. He'd seen thousands of people pass through, tourists, dignitaries, members of the royal family in their gleaming motorcades, but he'd never seen the Princess of Wales arrive alone. No security detail. No private car. No warning, just Kate Middleton, walking up the tree-lined path in a simple navy coat, her hair pulled back. Sunglasses hiding her eyes, despite the gray afternoon sky. Something was wrong. David's training kicked in immediately. His hand moved toward his radio, but something stopped him. The way she walked. Slow, deliberate, like every step required effort. She barely had. This wasn't a security threat. This was something else entirely. He stepped forward as she reached the gates. "Your Royal Highness?" Kate stopped. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Just stood there, 5 feet away, her chest rising and falling with breaths that seemed too heavy, when she finally removed her sunglasses. David's stomach dropped. Her eyes were red, swollen, the kind of crying that came from somewhere deep. The kind that didn't stop easily. "Good afternoon, Sergeant," she said quietly. Her voice was hoarse. Broken. If this story has you hooked already, hit that subscribe button now. You won't believe what happens next. David had strict protocols. No one entered without proper authorization. Not even royalty, technically. Without advance notice to the guard commander. But this was Kate, the future queen, and she looked like she was barely holding herself. "Together, ma'am." "I wasn't informed of your arrival," he said carefully. "Shall I contact the residents?" "No." The word came out sharp, almost desperate. "Please, no calls. No announcements." She stepped closer to the gate, close enough that David could see the exhaustion etched into her face. The strain around her mouth, the way her hands clutched her handbag like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. "I just need..."
Ow.
She started, then stopped. Swallowed hard. "I need to walk the grounds. Alone. Just for an hour." David had never heard a royal make a request like that. They didn't beg. They didn't explain. They certainly didn't show up unannounced, looking like their world had shattered. "Ma'am, for security purposes, I really should please." Her voice cracked. "David, isn't it?" He blinked. She knew his name. "I've seen you here for years," Kate continued. "Always professional. Always kind to the tourists when they ask silly questions about the Queen's Guard." She took a shaky breath. "I'm asking you not as the Princess of Wales, but as someone who desperately needs 1 hour. Just one, no cameras. No protocol. No one watching." David looked into her eyes and saw something that made his chest tight. Grief, raw and unfiltered. Whatever had happened. Whatever had brought her here alone on a Wednesday afternoon in March, it had broken something inside her. He should follow protocol. Call it in. Get authorization. But instead, he found himself reaching for the gate lock. 1 hour, he said quietly. "I'll log it as a private residence check." "But ma'am, if anything happens, nothing will happen," Kate said. "I just need to remember." "Remember what?" She looked past him, toward Windsor Castle, rising in the distance. Toward the grounds she'd walked 1,000 times. Toward memories David couldn't see. What it felt like before everything changed. She walked through the gates David had opened. He watched her go. Her figure growing smaller as she moved down the path toward the castle gardens. Her shoulders were hunched. Her pace was slow. This wasn't the confident, smiling princess the world knew. This was someone carrying weight too heavy to bear. David's radio crackled. "Sergeant Clark. Status report." His thumb hovered over the button. He should report this. He should follow procedure. But something in Kate's eyes had reached him. A silent plea that went beyond protocol and duty and royal rules. "All clear," he said into the radio. "Routine patrol, nothing to report." He was lying to his commanding officer. For her, because something told him that whatever Kate was facing, whatever had brought her here, she needed this moment of privacy more than the palace needed to know her location. David returned to his post. but his eyes never left the path where Kate had disappeared. And in the distance, through the ancient trees, he thought he heard something that made his throat tight, the sound of someone crying alone. A place that should have been home, but it felt like a memory of something lost. Asterisk. Asterisk. 45 minutes passed. David checked his watch for the 20th time. Kate had been gone too long without any communication. His nerves were fraying. He'd given his word. 1 hour. But every instinct screamed that he should have called it in immediately. What if something happened to her? What if she collapsed? What if this was more than just grief? The sound of footsteps made him turn. Kate was walking back, but she looked different. Her face was tear-streaked. Yes, her eyes were still swollen, but there was something else now. A kind of resolve, like she'd found something in those gardens, or decided something. She stopped at the gates. "Thank you," she said simply. David unlocked them, let her through. Are you all right, ma'am?" Kate almost smiled. Almost. That's a complicated question. She looked back at Windsor Castle one more time. This place holds so many memories. My wedding rehearsals. Sunday lunches with the late Queen. Watching George and Charlotte run through those gardens. Voice caught on the children's names. Sometimes you need to. Return to where you were happiest, she continued. To remember who you were before everything got so complicated. David wanted to ask what had happened, what had changed. But it wasn't his place. Kate seemed to sense his curiosity. "Can I ask you something, Sergeant?" "Of course, ma'am. Have you ever felt like you're living a life that doesn't belong to you anymore? Like you're playing a role everyone expects, but you've forgotten who you actually are underneath it all?" The question hit David harder than he expected. He thought of his own life. The uniform. The expectations. The rules. Sometimes he admitted quietly. Kate nodded. "It's exhausting, isn't it?" The performance. She pulled her sunglasses back on, hiding her eyes again. "I should go. Before anyone notices I'm gone, where's your car, ma'am?" "I don't have one. I took the train to Windsor. Walked from the station." David's eyes widened. "The Princess of Wales took public transport. I wore a hat. Kept my head down. No one looked twice. It was the most normal I've felt in months. Let me call you a car. Or at least no." Firm again. "I'll walk back. I need the air. The space." She started to leave, then turned back. "David, what we discussed today never happened, ma'am. You were never here." Gratitude flooded her face. "Thank you, truly." She walked away, disappearing down the long walk. David stood there, troubled. Something was deeply wrong in Kate's life. Something beyond what the public saw in the carefully staged photographs and official statements. That evening, David went home to his small flat in Windsor town. He couldn't shake the image of Kate's face, the rawness of her pain. He turned on the news. While making dinner, the royal correspondent was discussing upcoming engagements. Prince William attending a charity gala alone. Kate canceling her appearance at a Commonwealth event. Asterisk. Sources close to the palace suggest the princess is managing ongoing health concerns, the reporter said. Though officials maintain everything is under control, David froze. Health concerns. Is that what they were calling it? He'd seen Kate's face. That wasn't illness. That was someone drowning in something much deeper. The next day, David returned to his post at the gates. Different shift, same location. Another guard, Marcus, was there for the handover. "Anything unusual yesterday?" Marcus asked. David hesitated. "Nothing to report? You sure? I heard control mention something about an unauthorized presence near the East Garden." David's pulse quickened. Must have been a false alarm. "I logged everything," and Marcus shrugged. "Probably just a deer. They're always setting off the sensors." David nodded, relieved. But that afternoon, his phone buzzed. Unknown number? He almost didn't answer. Then something made him pick up. Sergeant Clark. A woman's voice. Professional. Clipped. "Yes." "This is Private Secretary Jenkins from Kensington Palace." We need to discuss your duty log from yesterday afternoon. David's blood ran cold. They knew? I'm not sure what you mean, he said carefully. We have security footage showing the Princess of Wales entering Windsor grounds at 15:20 hours. You were the guard on duty, yet there's no entry in the official log. Silence. Sergeant Clark, this is a serious breach of protocol. The Princess's protection team was not notified. Her location was unknown for nearly an hour. Do you understand the gravity of this? David's mind raced. He could lose his job. Face disciplinary action. All because he'd shown compassion instead of following rules. I can explain, you'll need to. The guard commander wants to see you tomorrow morning at 0800 hours. Until then, you're suspended from active duty. The line went dead. David sat in his flat, head in his hands. He'd tried to help. He'd seen someone in pain and made a human choice instead of a procedural one. And now it might cost him everything. But what bothered him most wasn't the suspension. It was knowing that Kate had been desperately seeking one moment of peace, 1 hour of privacy, and even that had been taken from her. Because in the world she lived in, there was no escape. Not even in grief, not even in pain. The palace owned every moment, every movement, every breath. And David had just learned that lesson the hardest way possible. Asterisk the guard. Commander's office was exactly as David expected. Formal, austere. Portraits of the Queen and King Charles. Staring down from dark wood-paneled walls, Commander Robert. Thornhill sat behind his desk, his expression unreadable. Sit down, Sergeant Clark.
Ow.
David sat. His uniform felt too tight. His throat was dry. Thornhill opened a file. Yesterday afternoon, you allowed the Princess of Wales onto Windsor grounds without authorization, without logging her entry, and without notifying her protection team. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Do you understand that the princess's safety is our primary concern? That her movements must be tracked at all times? Yes, sir. Then explain to me why you made the decision you did. David took a breath. Sir, the princess arrived on foot. Alone, she was. She was in distress. Visible, emotional distress. She asked for 1 hour of privacy on the grounds, and you granted that request without following proper channels. I made a judgment call. Thornhill leaned back. A judgment call that could have resulted in serious consequences. What if she'd been injured? What if there had been a security threat? What if she needed help, sir? David's voice was stronger now. Not the kind that comes from protocol and procedures. The human kind. Silence filled the room. Thornhill studied him for a long moment. Tell me exactly what you observed. David recounted everything. Kate's appearance, her trembling hands, her red, swollen eyes, the desperation in her voice.
Yes.
She wasn't there as the Princess of Wales, David finished. She was there as a person who needed one moment of peace, and I gave it to her. Thornhill closed the file. You broke protocol, Sergeant. I know, sir. Could be dismissed for this. I understand, sir. Another long silence. Then Thornhill did something unexpected. He pulled out a second file. This one looked older. More worn. 23 years ago, Thornhill began. I was a young officer at Balmoral. Princess Diana requested to walk the grounds alone after a particularly difficult phone call with the press. David's eyes widened. My commanding officer at the time told me to follow protocol, alert the protection team, log everything. But I saw her face. I saw what you saw yesterday. Someone drowning. Someone desperate for a moment of humanity in a world of constant scrutiny. Thornhill looked out the window. I let her go. Gave her an hour. Never logged it. Never reported it. What happened? David asked quietly. She thanked me. Told me that hours saved her from making a terrible decision. I never knew what she meant. But I've thought about it every day since she died. Thornhill turned back to David. Dude, the royal family lives in a gilded cage. Every moment scheduled. Every movement watched. Every emotion analyzed. Sometimes, Sergeant, the most important thing we can do is give them the one thing they can't ask for: privacy. He opened David's file again. However, there are procedures for a reason. The princess's protection team was frantic yesterday. They had no idea where she was. That's unacceptable. David nodded. I understand, sir. Yeah. Suspended for 1 week. Unpaid. This will go on your permanent record. But you'll keep your position. Relief flooded through David. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. Because starting tomorrow, you're being reassigned. David's relief evaporated. Reassigned where? Kensington Palace. Princess Catherine's detail specifically requested you. David's mouth fell open. What? Why? Thornhill almost smiled. Apparently, she told her private secretary, that you're the only guard who treated her like a human being instead of a security liability. She wants you on her personal protection team. But sir, I'm not trained for close protection. I'm just a ceremonial guard. You'll receive training. 3 months at the Royal Protection Command Facility. Then you'll be assigned to the princess's detail. David couldn't process it. Yesterday, he'd thought his career was over. Now he was being promoted to one of the most prestigious positions in the Guard. Sir, I don't understand. I broke protocol. I should be, sometimes, Sergeant. Breaking protocol is exactly what someone needs. The princess recognized that. So did I. Thornhill stood. Dismissed. Your training begins Monday. David left the office in a daze. He went home. Tried to make sense of everything. That evening, his phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Hello. Sergeant Clark. This is Private Secretary Jenkins. We spoke yesterday. David tensed. Yes, ma'am. I'm calling to apologize. My initial response was overly harsh. I didn't have all the information. I understand, ma'am. The princess wanted me to pass along a message. Jenkins paused. She said to tell you that yesterday was the first time in 6 months she felt like she could breathe, and she wanted to thank you for giving her that. 6 months? Yes. It's been difficult. More than the public knows. Is she all right now? Jenkins was quiet for a moment. She will be. With time, and with people around her who see her as Catherine, not just the Princess of Wales. After the call ended, David sat in his dark flat, pieces clicking into place. 6 months of difficulty. Health concerns reported in the media. Cancelled appearances. William attending events alone. Whatever Kate was going through, it was serious, long-term, and she'd been facing it with the weight of public. Expectation crushing down on her. That walk through Windsor hadn't been casual. It had been survival. A desperate attempt to reconnect with herself. Before she lost herself completely. And David had given her that hour. That small window of being human instead of royal. He looked at his guard uniform hanging on the door. Soon he'd have a new one. Close protection. Personal detail. He'd be responsible for her safety. Her security, but more than that, he'd be a witness to her struggle. A reminder that underneath the crown and the title and the expectations, she was still Catherine. Still human, still fighting to hold on to herself. And somehow, that felt more important than any protocol or procedure ever could. 3 months later, David stood in Kensington Palace for the first time as part of Kate's protection team. The training had been brutal. Physical conditioning, threat assessment, emergency medical response, diplomatic protocol, how to blend into the background while staying alert to every potential danger. But nothing prepared him for seeing Kate again. She looked different than that day at Windsor. Stronger, maybe. But the exhaustion was still there, hidden beneath carefully applied makeup and a professional smile. Their eyes met briefly during the security briefing. She gave a small nod. Recognition. Gratitude. David nodded back. His supervisor, Chief Protection Officer Sarah Mitchell, was explaining the day's schedule. The princess has 3 engagements today. Morning visit to a children's hospital. Afternoon reception for the mental health charity. Evening event at the Royal Albert Hall. Kate sat at the table, listening. Taking notes? playing the part perfectly. But David noticed the way her hand trembled slightly when she reached for her water glass, the way she took a deep breath before standing, like she was gathering strength. Any questions? Sarah asked the team. No, ma'am, they responded in unison. Kate stood. Thank you, everyone. Shall we? The day was exhausting, and David wasn't even the one performing at the children's hospital. Kate knelt beside a young girl with cancer, held her hand, listened to her talk about her favorite Disney princess, smiled and laughed and gave that child a moment of pure joy. But in the car between engagements, Kate's smile vanished. She closed her eyes, leaned her head back, the performance draining her. David sat in the front passenger seat, watching her in the rearview mirror. 45 minutes until the next event, ma'am, Sarah said gently. Would you like to stop somewhere? Get some air? No, just... Can we take the long route? Through the park? Of course. They drove through Hyde Park. Trees, open sky. A brief illusion of freedom. Kate's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and declined the call. It rang again. Again she declined. On the third ring she answered, Hello, William. Even from the front seat, David could hear the tension in her voice. I'm fine. Yes, I know I missed the call. I was with patients. I couldn't. Yes, I understand. I'll be home by 8. I promise. She hung up. Stared out the window. Sarah caught David's eye in the mirror. A look that said, We don't comment. We don't judge. We just protect. The afternoon reception was at a mental health charity Kate had supported for years. She gave a speech about the importance of seeking help, about breaking the stigma around therapy and emotional wellness, about the strength it takes to admit you're struggling. Her words were powerful, moving, and David realized she wasn't just reading from a script. She was speaking from experience. Health challenges don't discriminate, Kate said to the crowd. They affect people across all walks of life. Rich, poor, famous, unknown. And the bravest thing anyone can do is ask for help. Her voice cracked slightly on that last word. The audience didn't notice. They applauded. But David noticed. Sarah noticed after the event. In a private room while Kate freshened up before the evening gala, Sarah pulled David aside. You see it now, don't you? See what, ma'am? Why she asked for you specifically on this detail. David waited. Because you saw her that day at Windsor. You saw her at her lowest. And you didn't treat her like she was broken. You treated her like she was human. Sarah looked through the door at Kate, who was reapplying lipstick with shaking hands. She's been in therapy for 6 months, Sarah said quietly. Severe anxiety, depression. The pressure of this life finally caught up with her. The palace kept it quiet, managed the narrative. But Catherine was falling apart. David felt his chest tighten. And Prince William? Sarah's expression hardened. Supportive in public, complicated in private. He loves her, but he doesn't always understand. He was raised in this world. For him, duty comes first, always. But Catherine, she chose this life. She could have walked away before the wedding. But she chose William, chose the crown, and now she's wondering if she made the right choice. That's why she came to Windsor alone. She was saying goodbye. Sarah's voice dropped to barely a whisper. To the person she used to be, to the life she could have had. David's stomach dropped. Goodbye? You mean she wasn't going to hurt herself, if that's what you're thinking? But she was deciding whether to continue, whether to stay in this marriage, this life, or walk away from all of it. And your kindness that day reminded her that there are still good people in this world. People who see her, really see her. Sarah paused. She decided to stay. To fight. To get help. Kate emerged from the dressing room, composed again. Professional, the Princess of Wales. Ready? She asked. Ready, ma'am, Sarah replied. The evening gala was spectacular. The Royal Albert Hall, glittering with lights and elegant guests. Kate in a stunning emerald gown, looking every bit the future queen. She smiled, shook hands, made small talk with dignitaries and celebrities, but David saw the moments between. The brief seconds when her smile faltered, when she touched her temple like fighting off a headache, when she gripped William's arm a little too tightly. William, for his part, was charming, attentive in public. But David noticed the distance between them when they thought no one was looking. The way William checked his phone, instead of listening when Kate spoke. The way Kate's shoulders slumped slightly. When he walked away to talk to someone more important, this wasn't a fairy tale. This was two people trapped in roles they couldn't escape, trying to find their way back to each other while the world watched their every move. Near midnight, the event finally ended. Kate and William climbed into the car. David and Sarah in the front. William immediately pulled out his phone. I need to return these calls. Urgent matters. Kate stared out the window. Silent, they drove through London. Past Buckingham Palace, lit up like a beacon. Past tourists taking photos. Past people living ordinary lives, unaware of the extraordinary loneliness sitting in the back of this car. When they arrived at Kensington Palace, William got out first. I'll be in my study. Don't wait up. He walked away without looking back. Kate sat in the car for a long moment, not moving. Not speaking. Sarah turned. Ma'am? We're home. Home, Kate repeated softly. Is it though? Or is it just another stage? She looked at David through the mirror. Do you ever regret it, Sergeant Clark? The choices you've made? David thought about his ex-wife. His daughter, he barely saw. The life he'd sacrificed for duty. Sometimes, ma'am, he admitted. Kate nodded. At least you're honest. She got out of the car. Paused. Thank you. Both of you. For seeing me as more than just a title. And she walked into the palace. Alone, David and Sarah sat in silence. She's not going to last, Sarah said finally. Not like this. What do you mean? Something has to change. Either William wakes up and remembers why he married her, or what? Or we'll be standing at these gates watching her walk away. For good. 2 months passed. Summer turned to autumn. The leaves in Kensington Gardens turned gold and red. David watched Kate navigate her impossible life with increasing concern. She smiled for the cameras, fulfilled her duties, played the perfect princess. But in the private moments, she was fading one rainy October afternoon. David was stationed outside Kate's private sitting room during her weekly therapy session. Dr. Margaret Preston, a discreet psychiatrist who'd worked with royals for decades, arrived promptly at 2 p.m. The sessions usually lasted an hour. But today, after just 30 minutes, David heard raised voices, not shouting, but intense, emotional. I can't keep doing this. Kate's voice raw with frustration. Everyone wants a piece of me. The palace. The press. William. The children need their mother, but I have nothing left to give. Dr. Preston's response was too quiet to hear. Then Kate again. You don't understand. I'm not allowed to fall apart. Queens don't have breakdowns. Princesses don't admit they're drowning. We smile. We wave. We pretend everything is perfect. A long silence. When Dr. Preston emerged, her face was troubled. She caught David's eye. Stay close to her today, Sergeant. She's fragile. After the therapist left, David waited. Protocol said he shouldn't enter unless summoned. But something made him knock gently. Ma'am, it's Sergeant Clark. May I come in? Silence. Then, yes. Kate sat by the window, tea untouched on the table beside her. She'd been crying. Her makeup was smudged. I'm sorry, she said. You shouldn't see me like this. Ma'am, you don't need to apologize, don't I? She laughed bitterly. I'm the Princess of Wales, future Queen Consort. I'm supposed to be strong, dignified, unbreakable. David took a careful step closer. You're also human, ma'am. Humans break sometimes. Kate looked at him. Really looked at him. Do you know what the worst part is? What, ma'am? I have everything anyone could want. Beautiful children. A historic position. Wealth, influence. And I'm more miserable than I've ever been. Tears spilled down her cheeks. What kind of person feels that way? A person who's carrying too much weight alone. I'm not alone. I have William, my family. My team, do you though? David asked gently. Having people around you isn't the same as having support. Kate's expression crumpled. He doesn't see me anymore, William. I'm just a function. The mother of his children, the woman who stands beside him in photos. But he doesn't see me. The real me, the one who's terrified and exhausted and wondering if she can survive another day of pretending. She stood abruptly, walked to the window. I used to love him so much. We used to laugh. Stay up talking for hours. He made me feel like I could handle anything because we were a team. What changed? The crown changed. When his grandmother died, when his father became king, William became harder, more focused on duty, more like his father. And I became invisible. Just another royal wife playing her part. Kate turned back to David. Do you know what I dream about? No, ma'am. Ordinary life. Grocery shopping. Walking down the street without security. Taking my children to a park without photographers. Being Catherine again, instead of Catherine, Princess of Wales. She wrapped her arms around herself. That day, you found me at Windsor. I was saying goodbye to that possibility, accepting that this is my life now, forever, until the day I die. And have you accepted it? Kate was quiet for a long moment. I'm trying. Dr. Preston says I need to find purpose within these constraints. Find moments of authenticity in all the performance. But some days it feels impossible. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and sighed. William. Wondering where I am? Reminding me about the state dinner tonight. She typed a quick response. Set the phone down. I should get ready. Can't keep the king waiting. Ma'am, before you go, that day at Windsor, you said you needed to remember what it felt like before everything changed. Did you find it? Kate smiled sadly. I found enough to keep going. Thanks to you. That evening, David stood in his dress uniform outside the state dining room at Buckingham Palace. The dinner was for visiting dignitaries from Canada. Kate arrived in a stunning burgundy gown. Hair perfect. Makeup flawless. The transformation was complete, but David could see the exhaustion in her eyes. The effort it took to maintain the smile. William was already inside, talking animatedly with the Canadian Prime Minister. He barely glanced at Kate when she entered. David watched through the doorway as Kate navigated the room, gracious, charming, engaging each guest with perfect protocol. But he also saw the moment, halfway through dinner, when her hand trembled as she reached for her wine glass. The way she excused herself early, claiming a headache. Sarah appeared at David's side. She's at her limit. I know. Something has to give. Either she gets real support from William, or an alarm suddenly blared through the palace. Security protocols activated. Medical emergency. A voice crackled through the radio. State dining room, female, early 40s, collapsed. David's blood ran cold. He and Sarah rushed inside. Kate was on the floor, unconscious. William kneeling beside her, his face pale with shock. Kate. Catherine. Can you hear me? Dr. Harris, the palace physician, was already there, checking her pulse. Her breathing. It's breathing. Pulse is weak. Looks like exhaustion and severe stress. We need to get her to the hospital. No hospitals, William said sharply. No press. This stays private, Your Royal Highness. She needs proper medical care. She'll receive it here. Privately, no hospitals. That's final. David watched as they carefully moved Kate to a private room. Watched William pace outside, on his phone. Managing the crisis. Managing the optics. Not sitting with his wife. Not holding her hand. Managing an hour later. Kate woke up, disoriented, embarrassed. What happened? Dr. Harris explained gently. You collapsed, ma'am. Exhaustion, dehydration, your body shut down. William entered. Thank God, you scared everyone. I'm sorry, Kate whispered. I ruined the dinner. Don't worry about that. We told them you had a brief fainting spell. Nothing serious. The dinner continued. Kate's eyes filled with tears. Not relief, hurt. The dinner had continued. Without her, of course it had. She was replaceable. William squeezed her shoulder. Rest now. We'll talk in the morning. And he left. Back to his duties. His obligations. David remained stationed outside Kate's room. Through the door, he heard quiet crying, the kind that came from somewhere beyond physical exhaustion, the kind that came from a soul breaking, under impossible weight, and for the first time. David wondered if Sarah was right, if Kate would really walk away, and if she did, if anyone would actually try to stop her. 3 weeks after the collapse. Kate made a decision. She requested a private meeting with King Charles. No William. No advisors. Just the two of them. David drove her to Clarence's house on a gray November morning. She was quiet the entire journey, resolute. I'll be about an hour, she told him at the entrance. We'll be here, ma'am. Kate walked inside. David waited. Sarah waited. What do you think she's doing? David asked. Sarah stared at the entrance, either asking for help or asking for permission to leave. Would he let her? I don't know. Diana tried. She was miserable. She wanted out. But they made it nearly impossible. The institution protects itself first. Always. 90 minutes passed. Then 2 hours. Finally, Kate emerged. Her face was calm, but her eyes were red. She got in the car without speaking. They drove in silence for 10 minutes before Kate finally said, Take me to Windsor. The Long Walk Gates? David's heart jumped. Ma'am, please. I need to go back there. One more time. Sarah caught David's eye in the mirror. A silent question. David nodded. They drove to Windsor, pulled up to the same gates where this had all begun 8 months ago. Kate got out, stood at the gates, stared at the castle in the distance. David joined her. What did the king say, ma'am? If I may ask. Kate took a deep breath. He listened. Really listened. For 2 hours, I told him everything. The depression. The anxiety. How alone I feel. How William has become a stranger. How I'm not sure I can do this for the rest of my life. And he understood. More than I expected. He said his mother, the late queen, felt the same way many times. Trapped, lonely, desperate for a normal life. But she endured. Because duty mattered more than happiness, Kate's voice cracked. He said, I have a choice. I can step back, take a sabbatical, reduce my duties, even separate from William if that's what I need. But I can never fully leave. Not with the children. Not with my position. A gilded cage, David said quietly. Exactly. Kate turned to him. But he also said something else. He said the monarchy is changing. It has to. And that people like me, people who struggle openly, who admit they're human, might be exactly what the institution needs to survive. She looked back at the castle. He asked me what I want. Not what William wants. Not what the palace wants. What I want. What did you say? I said I want to stay. But on my terms. I want real partnership with William, not just a working arrangement. I want time with my children that isn't scheduled and photographed. I want to support causes I actually care about, not just show up and smile. And I want honesty. If I'm struggling, I want to be able to say so without it being a scandal. Did he agree? Kate smiled slightly. He said he'd try. That we'd all try. He's arranging for William and me to have couples therapy. It's private, confidential. He's reducing my public engagements for the next 6 months. And he's allowing me to be more selective about which causes I champion. That's progress, ma'am. It's something. Kate's smile faded. But I don't know if it's enough. I don't know if William will really engage. If he'll see me again instead of just the role I play. She turned to David. You asked me once if I'd accepted this life. The truth is, I'm still deciding. Every single day, I wake up and decide whether to stay or go. And some days, the only thing that keeps me here is knowing that there are people out there who need someone in my position to be honest about struggling. You're helping people by being real. I hope so. Because if my pain doesn't serve some purpose, then what's the point? They stood in silence for a moment. The wind rustled through the trees. Clouds moved across the sky. David, can I ask you something? Of course, ma'am. That day you let me through these gates. Why did you do it? You could have said no. Followed protocol. Protected your career. David thought about it. Because I saw someone drowning. And sometimes the rule book matters less than human compassion. Kate's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. For that day, for all the days since, for seeing me. I'll always see you, ma'am. Not the princess. You. Kate wiped her eyes. Took a deep breath. All right, let's go home. I have dinner with the children tonight. And tomorrow, William and I have our first therapy session. You think it will help? I don't know. But I have to try. For George and Charlotte and Louis, they deserve parents who love each other. Not just to people playing roles. They drove back to Kensington Palace as the sun began to set. London glowed in the fading light. When they arrived, William was waiting in the courtyard. Unusual. Kate got out of the car slowly, uncertain. William walked toward her. And for the first time in months, David saw something in his expression that looked like awareness. Like he'd finally woken up to what he was losing. Catherine, William said quietly. I spoke with my father. He told me. He told me what you said. Kate stood very still, waiting. I'm sorry. William's voice broke. I'm sorry I made you feel invisible. I'm sorry I chose duty over you. Over us? William, no. Let me finish. I've been so focused on being the perfect future king that I forgot how to be your husband, your partner. But I want to try again, if you'll let me. Kate's tears fell freely now. I want to try to, but it has to be different. We have to be different, I know. And we will be. I promise. William pulled her into an embrace. Kate clung to him, her body shaking with sobs. David looked away. This moment was theirs. Sarah touched his arm. Come on. Let's give them privacy. As they walked away, David heard William whisper, I love you. I never stopped. I just forgot how to show it. Kate's reply. Then show me now. Show me every day. Because I can't do this alone anymore. 6 months later, David stood at those same Windsor Gates. But this time, it was different. Kate walked up the long walk with William. Together, hand in hand. George, Charlotte, and Louis ran ahead, laughing, chasing each other through the grass. No photographers. No official engagement. Just a family spending Sunday afternoon together. Kate saw David and smiled. A real smile. The kind that reached her eyes. She looked healthier. Lighter. Still tired sometimes, but no longer drowning. She and William had done the work. The therapy. The difficult conversations. The rebuilding. It wasn't perfect. It would never be perfect. But it was real. Good afternoon, Sergeant Clark, Kate said warmly. Good afternoon, ma'am. Your Royal Highness? David nodded to William. Lovely day for a walk, William said. Indeed, sir. Children ran back. Charlotte grabbed Kate's hand. Mummy, can we go to the gardens? Please, Kate laughed. Yes, darling. Let's go. As the family walked through the gates David held open, Kate paused. Looked back at him. Thank you, she mouthed. For everything. For that day, 8 months ago. For seeing her. For giving her a moment of humanity when she desperately needed it. David nodded. Understanding, he watched them disappear down the path toward the castle. A family finding their way back to each other. A woman finding herself again. That evening, David went home to his flat. Hung up his uniform. Sat by the window with a cup of tea. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. He opened it. A photo. Kate and William and the children in the Windsor Gardens. Candid, unposed, happy, and a message. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is ask for help. Thank you for being there when I needed it most. See, David smiled. Saved the photo. He thought about all the rules he'd broken. The protocol he'd ignored. The risk he'd taken. And he realized he'd do it all again in a heartbeat. Because some things mattered more than rules. Human compassion. Seeing someone's pain and responding with kindness instead of procedure, giving someone drowning a moment to breathe. That day at the gates, David had saved more than just Kate's afternoon. He'd reminded her that beneath the crown and the title and the impossible expectations, she was still Catherine. Still human. Still worthy of being seen. And sometimes that's all anyone needs. To be seen. To be understood. To know they're not alone. The Princess of Wales had found her way back from the edge. She'd fought for herself. For her marriage. For her family. And David had played a small but crucial part in that journey. As he turned off the lights and prepared for bed, David felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Not the kind that came from duty or protocol. The kind that came from knowing he'd made a real difference in someone's life. And that, he realized, was worth more than any medal or commendation. It was worth everything.